Hello, Scream Demons, and welcome to the Screams from the Basement podcast with Sam and Casey.
This is a horror podcast in which two horror fans discuss all things horror, including news, recent watches, horror collectibles, and more.
I am one of your co-hosts. I am Casey.
And I'm Sam. Let's get screaming.
Screaming demon on this episode of Screams from the Basement. Sam, what is up?
You know, a lot's up. We've had a busy month. We haven't recorded like a normal episode in probably close to a month.
I was say people have heard our voice every Friday on this podcast, but you and I actually have not recorded any episodes of this podcast in over a month now.
Yep. We got one interview in the tank from last week, correct? Did we just interview someone?
Yeah, we just did. I guess that was it. But like, this is the first one that's gonna.
This is the first one that's gonna drop. Yes.
Us two finally talking one-on-one.
My brain's so fried. Yes, we did record an interview.
We did
with the Don't Fuck with Ghost guys. That'll be awesome. Be on the lookout for that.
That drops next Friday. People can look out for it then. Sam, we had a busy month. We're not going to go fully into what happened in September because there's honestly too much, and there's probably a whole podcast worth of information just from our last month of just all the events that we've done.
Yeah.
And there will be a full podcast episode. Be on the lookout for that. We might say something at the end of this episode of how that's going to work. But we also launched a new podcast. I want to throw that out before we get into today's double feature, because I want to make sure we throw that out because our first episode of The Bad Signal, produced by Screams from the Basement and Bad Hand Books, just dropped last Tuesday. We had our very first episode of The Bad Signal. Sam, what is The Bad Signal? I don't think we've talked about it yet on here because we hadn't launched yet.
Yeah, I don't think we have. So The Bad Signal is an interview show that Casey and I are hosting, an interview podcast. Like Casey said, co-produced by Bad Hand Books. Shout out to Doug Morano, CEO. And we're going to be talking it's going to drop every other Tuesday, and we're going to have a different Bad Hand Books creative person in the studio with us to talk about whatever their latest project was. And the first episode we dropped was with one of my favorite authors currently working today, Clay McLeod Chapman, for his new novella, Kill Your Darling, which is incredible. Casey and I both loved that book.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great conversation with him. And yeah, it's a fun show. We've had a blast recording every interview. We've got a couple more lined up in the upcoming weeks that we're both pretty friggin' pumped for. This show's going to be good. And the show already is good. And we've
we think so, but we're biased.
We are biased, but genuinely, we're proud of this show. We put a lot of work into it. It is not just like Screams 2.0.
Yep.
It's very different.
It's a little more produced. We do have more of intros, outros, not just me clicking a button on here to play some music. We have actual we introduce our guests on our interviews that we do on Screams, but this one's a little more, I don't know, I want to say it's more personable, or we get a little more personal with the authors on the show. I feel like this, I don't know, it's been fun. It's been fun to experiment on how we can make it different while also keeping
banter.
Keeping the show still you and I, because that's really what helps with this show, what will help with The Bad Signal. Definitely our chemistry, our Wayne and Garth of horror. That's what we want to be. Hopefully that's what we can become, is the Wayne Campbell and Garth Algar of horror.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing too, is we've interviewed authors on Screams before, but I'd even say
we've interviewed Doug on Screams.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But the vibe of our Screams interviews is just different than the vibe of our Bad Signal interviews.
Yeah.
And not in I don't know, it's in a way that I can't quite put my thumb on, but it's kind of cool. It's cool to see both of these shows kind of taking the shapes that they've become. You
Yeah.
know?
I mean, this one we obviously try to focus. I mean, we've done comic books and books before on the show, like you said, on Screams, but it still kind of has that movie flavor to it.
Yeah, like we
Where,
still kind of bring it back to movies, basically.
yeah,
Yeah,
and Bad Hand is straight up books, and I mean, we end each episode with the editor's epilogue, which is our version of Stan's soapbox at the end. Like we have Doug come in and say, "Hey, this is what's going on at Bad Hand Books," just like those old Marvel comics always ended with Stan Lee saying, "Hey, this is what's going on at Marvel," or for us full moon nerds, this is our video zone
yeah.
at the end where we don't have Charles Band shilling out Puppet Master action figures. We have Doug talking about what people can expect from Bad Hand books.
Yeah. Oh, and he just sent us. I mean, it's only going to be the second editor's epilogue, but he just sent us an editor's epilogue that already kind of bucks the trend of what we were initially planning with it. But it's a good one. It's a really good one. Our next episode,
it still ties into the editor's epilogue. What's that?
Yes.
But yeah.
100%. Yeah.
So,
it's just, yeah.
So every other Tuesday, we just dropped one last Tuesday. So if you're listening to this on Friday or this weekend, you'll have a new episode coming out on Tuesday. The Bad Signal. We'll share that out on our socials. It does have its own podcast feed, so please go follow The Bad Signal. It's pretty easy to find. That's all you got to do is search for that. Sam, it's a timely one. This next one, because Hellboy came out this week.
It did. It just came out today, I think.
Who knew? Like,
as we're recording this.
As we're recording, Hellboy, the new Hellboy, came straight to video today, and we have
Thomas Nagoski and Janine Acheson on the show. Tom is
a writer on many Hellboy stories.
Of many Hellboy stories. He works really closely with Mike Mignola. Him and Janine are writing a couple of different series for Bad Hand books that we talk about. But in particular, they just re-released Grim Death, which is Nagoski's illustrated novel that he did with Mike Mignola, the Hellboy creator.
And writer of the new Hellboy.
And writer of the new Hellboy. Yeah, exactly. So, needless to say, Casey and I also loved that book. It was a great conversation with Tom and Janine. They were amazing. They were actually our first interview that we recorded.
Don't tell them how we bake the cake, Sam.
The sausage. It's a little shop talk, sure, but it was just a great way to kick off the show. Honestly, like that was one of the easiest interviews we had. They were so gracious with their answers and their time, and it was wonderful. So be on the lookout for that Tuesday.
That is The Bad Signal. Check it out. We'll plug it at the end of our episodes going forward. We won't go as in depth on what's going on over there so much on this show, but we just had to get it out there. We're very excited for it. We think people, if you listen to this show, you're going to love that as well. Even if you don't read all the novels, like you're going to find the interviews themselves super interesting, and maybe we'll lean you towards, I'm going to check that book out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Haven't read a bad one yet for this podcast. True statement. So
you haven't read a bad one yet, but you have read The Bad Hands yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
Plenty of bad hands.
Yes. All right, Sam. Well, let's get into today's episode. We're in the spooky season. We're in the basement. It's spooky season. It's October. Like, we're gearing up to watch these kind of annual horror traditions that we watch every single October. And this month's double features, both this week and in 2 weeks from now, are like horror Halloween. They are definitely in that vibe of like, let's get in the spooky season.
Yep.
So today, what are we doing, Sam?
Today, we've got one classic from the 80s and one from the aughts. Both of these movies both of them aren't timeless, but they're both timely picks. We've got 1986's Trick or Treat.
Yes.
Which has Gene Simmons and Ozzy Osbourne in it. And we have, barely, but
they're in it. They're on the poster of any DVD you buy for it. They're on it.
And then we have Trick or Treat.
Trick or Treat.
From 2009.
And we're doing the one scene from Halloween Resurrection where Busta Rhymes yells, "Trick or treat, motherfucker."
Oh,
To
we are?
Michael
I
Myers.
didn't watch
Oh,
that in prep for this. I'm sorry.
no, we're not doing that.
It's really funny. That's all I
It's
have
the
to say
best
about
line.
it. It's
Also,
the only
Busta
good
Rhymes,
part of that whole movie.
hot take, Busta Rhymes is one of the best Halloween characters.
You're not wrong. He's
He
one of the
is.
most memorable, that's
He
for
is.
sure.
He's one of the best. He's one of
It's
the
not a
best.
it's not a deep stable to pull from as far as memorable characters
I'm going to
go,
have
but
some hot takes on this episode. That's the first one. We're going to get
oh,
into another hot take here when we
yeah.
talk about Trick or Treat from 1986. You want to jump
Yeah.
into it? You ready?
Yeah, let's jump into it.
All right. So Trick or Treat 1986, directed by Charles Martin Smith, written by, there's 3 credited writers on this, which kind of shows.
It shows.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Rhett Topham, Michael Murphy, and Joel Soyson. I've not heard of any of these names in terms of writing credits before, but they're all credited writers on 1986's Trick or Treat, like Sam said, starring, well, cameo roles by Gene Simmons and Ozzy
Osbourne.
Yes, and we'll get into their characters as we go along. But the plot of Trick or Treat... Oh, they're characters. The plot of Trick or Treat is a high school metalhead, Eddie, a.k.a. Ragman, is Sammy Kerr's biggest fan. So Sammy Kerr is like the biggest rock star in the world in this movie. He's like the... He's like
Ozzy.
the lead singer. He's Ozzy. He's Axl Rose. Like he's Bret Michaels. He's them, but bigger. He's the guy. He's the GOAT. But when this metal icon dies, he just dies, like off screen during a news broadcast. Ragman receives Sammy's final album from radio station in town with a radio DJ played by Gene Simmons. But when he plays this record backwards, as one does, because you have to play all metal records backwards to hear the satanic message in them.
Right.
It accidentally awakens the demonic body, the demonic embodiment of Sammy Kerr.
Who now
Kerr lives.
Undisclosed electrical powers.
He has undisclosed magical abilities. He has a burnt face. Still, even in ghost supernatural form. He died in a fire, but also still has burns on his face in the afterlife. And has undefined magical abilities that include turning into a mist.
Yeah.
Dying via just getting driven off a bridge and shooting lightning bolts from his hands and or his guitar.
And his biggest weakness is toilets.
Yeah, he does not like toilets. Also, there's a certain scene we'll talk about where the spirit of him gets a little handsy.
Oh yeah, that's okay. That's a good scene. It's maybe an
I like
scene,
that scene.
But it's a good scene. It's fun.
Like
Yeah.
So let's jump into, first of all, when did we both watch this? When did we both become aware that Trick or Treat was a thing? Because for me, I don't think I had heard of this movie like before the Screenbox did like their big restoration of it. Mm-hmm. But it was always kind of that underground Halloween movie that I would always see pop up on like YouTube videos and stuff. Like, hey, here's this movie that has Ozzy and Gene Simmons in it. And it's set on Halloween. It's called Trick or Treat, but it's not the anthology Trick or Treat.
Yeah.
And it's about this like rock star come back to life. And that's all I really knew going into it. And I watched some, like, I think we both probably watched this YouTube rip that was on YouTube.
That was like, how I first watched it.
Yeah, ripped straight from like the VHS. Terrible quality.
Terrible quality, awful sound. You cannot understand what the records are saying when he's playing them backwards. Like,
100%.
It's awful. It's awful.
When I first watched it, I fell in love with this movie. Yep. Sammy Kerr was like the coolest. The soundtrack. I should have grabbed it. I have the cassette for Trick or Treat right behind me. Like, the soundtrack for this is incredible. I love it. I still jam to a lot of the songs off the soundtrack. I even bought a Sammy Kerr Live sweatshirt after this. Like, I love this movie, and it was so much fun. I finally found the DVD at Last Stop, so I own the movie.
Yep.
That also needs a upgrade because it's not the best.
It's getting one. I think it's coming this month, a 4K upgrade from Arrow, I wanna say?
Is it?
Maybe it's yeah. Yeah, because that's why Screambox has the 4K restoration,
Yeah.
because there is going to be an actual 4K disc and Blu-ray release of this on one of the boutique labels, but I can't quite remember which one. I wanna say Arrow, but I could be off, so
Might be Scream Factory.
it might be. It might be.
Yeah.
It seems like yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, like you, I mean, I'd heard about it. I think the first time I had actually heard about it was on either Shockwaves or Colors of the Dark. I think it was a Rebecca McKendry one that she had talked about at a certain point on that podcast, and I was like, "Oh."
They
Or
might
maybe
have
as
done
Screen Drafts.
they might have done an episode of Shockwaves on like rock and roll horror.
I think that's what it was. I
Because I
think that's what it
remember
was.
them talking about Black Roses too, which
Yes,
Black
Black
Roses also.
Roses. They also talked about, like, the animated heavy metal, a
Yep.
little bit,
Oh,
yeah.
what's the Turbulence 3?
Yeah, that's right, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it was that episode that I had that I heard about it, and then, I'd heard songs from it, and I was like, "Oh, this is cool." Um, but it wasn't until, like, a few years ago maybe that I was like, "It's gotta be somewhere." Like, if it's not anywhere, it's probably on YouTube. And so I searched it on YouTube, and there's a perfectly terrible rip of it.
Yep.
And, that's kinda how I watch a lot of movies that just aren't available on streaming. You have to hunt them down on VHS to find them. Like, they barely have DVD releases. Um, your DVD of this is the same as mine, I think. I'm pretty sure it's like a full screen DVD too. Like, it's not a high quality one at all.
Yeah, it is not a high quality one. It is a
I
full
mean,
screen. It's the one that has Ozzy and Gene
and
Simmons on the cover of the DVD.
but, like, not in character. It's just 2 pictures of them over, like, a generic skull design. Is that right?
No, I think mine's a different one with those two on it.
Oh, really?
I
Does
think
yours
so.
does yours this is the one that mine is.
No, that's not the one I have.
Okay.
But it
Okay, we
has them
have
on it.
different versions then.
Yeah,
Okay.
it just has those two on it, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's such a fun movie. It's even better now that it's on Screenbox in 4K, and I can actually understand what's going on in certain
Yeah.
scenes from just being able to hear, having an actual subtitle track, all of that good stuff. Yeah, this movie rules. It's silly and goofy in a way that only an 80s horror movie really is, but it's got that kind of zany. I hesitate to I don't like it as much as this movie, but it kind of has a little bit of like Hello Mary Lou Prom Night 2 vibes to it.
Mm.
Like it's that kind of like weird hyper style, or not hyper stylized, but like everything is elevated to an 11 in the high school drama of it all. You know what I mean? Like, this is
Yeah.
the most dramatic movie even before the undead rock star starts electrocuting people to death.
Yeah, and it's definitely like a metal movie. Like
Yeah, yeah.
metalheads love this movie type of thing. And
Like,
okay,
hair metalheads do, though. Like, you know what I mean?
we've had this discussion.
We've had this discussion. This is pop radio metal, and I love it. That's my personal taste of metal. But I'm like, dudes who are into Anthrax
but
are gonna
also
look
like
at this and be like, this isn't heavy metal.
but also like Ozzy and Gene Simmons are in this. Like,
Yeah, that's fair. But Gene Simmons isn't metal.
okay,
Gene Simmons is like the least metal person
yeah,
there
okay,
is.
fine, yeah, I'll give you that.
Ozzy, I'll give you Ozzy, but
this is like I know we've had this discussion many times.
we
Like,
have.
this is the Guns N' Roses of metal, where I think
Yes,
it's that
yeah.
in between, because Guns N' Roses isn't Poison, but
Right.
Guns N' Roses also isn't Metallica.
Yeah, yeah. There's like an in between of it.
They're in
agree
that
with
weird
that.
in between of like, it's cool for metalheads to still like Guns N' Roses,
Yeah.
But parents or young teenage girls, I should say, are probably not gonna like Guns N' Roses
Yeah.
besides the lead singer. I don't know. It's that weird area. I don't know.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. Yeah.
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 Okay, so you're ready for my hot take because it's the first note I have on this movie.
Oh God. Yeah. Hit me with it.
Ragman, our main character.
Uh-huh.
We kind of talked about this. You were texting me as you
Yeah.
were watching it. You do not like Ragman.
Okay. I don't. I like and he gets better as the movie progresses for me, but like honestly at the beginning of this movie I find him insufferable. Like I get that he's being bullied, but like good God, he's a fucking creep. He really is.
I think he is one of the best metal characters in any movie, metal fans in any movie.
Hmm.
I think he's one of the best representations of that, where he's not like over the top, like cartoonish metal character, where
Yeah.
he's not like wearing black eyeliner and having black like the Hot Topic version of a metalhead.
Yeah,
You know
but
what I
he's
mean?
writing to his idol in a diary. I mean, that's pretty hot topic.
You don't think that metalheads were like obsessing with their
Okay,
rock
but
idols like that?
he's like writing letters to this guy in just a notebook.
Oh yeah, and he's actually writing him letters.
Is he?
Yeah,
He's actually sending these letters?
yes,
He's probably got a restraining order, dude.
he's going full Stan on Sammy Kerr. No,
I
but
think that's what it is. It just like he gives me those vibes. He gives me Stan vibes. He gives me like I don't know.
what I like about him is he is also like he's a fully realized where like people don't look down on it besides like the high school bullies don't look down on him for liking metal. So like his
Yeah.
mom is fully on board of like she's regular suburban mom. It just
Mhm.
so happens that her son loves heavy metal music.
Mhm.
He hangs out with like the nerdy kid in his class and like
Yeah, that's true.
looking at like high school, like when I was in high school, it was like, yeah, the nerdy kids and the metalheads hung out together because they weren't jocks. And that
Yeah,
was the
pretty
only
much.
thing they had in common.
Yeah.
And that's 100% what these two guys have in common. Oh, well, I mean, the best friend, Glenn Morgan, we'll talk about some trivia with him later. But the best friend, he also listens to Sammy Kerr. Like he listens to this music, but he isn't
Yep.
dressing up like the metalhead. And I was that kid. That was me. Like I was listening to metal music, but I was just dressing up like I wasn't wearing the Anthrax
Right.
t-shirt and jacket and the metal wristbands or anything like that. So I don't know. I
Right.
think this is one of the best representations of metal put into a movie. I think it just nails it completely on the head that it's not consuming the entire identity of Ragman, but enough of like this is what he loves and is going to focus on it. It's not a caricature. He's a character. Doesn't take away from the fact that he probably does have school shooter vibes. Like
He does. He
I
really
was
does.
I was friends with metalheads like this. They do
Uh
have school shooter vibes. I'm just saying they do. But when
I
you
know.
actually talk to them, they are nice, normal, ordinary people. It's same with horror fans.
Yeah, but like his internal monologue is like the screwheads and the blah blah blah. Like who needs them and
those
all
guys
that.
were awful. Like I
But
if
he's
I
like talking in general, like towards everybody. He's like, I don't need anybody. And I'm like, okay, calm down, Jan. Like,
uh
like
if this
there's
guy
like a moment where he goes like, I could take or leave anything they have except for one thing, and then like an out of focus shot of the girl that he's crushing on happens, but there's like four other girls in the shot and I can't tell which girl I'm supposed to be looking at because it's not even in focus. And so she pops up later in the movie and I'm like, is that the one from earlier? I don't
must
know.
be.
Even on the 4K restoration, that shot does not make sense.
But also like these bullies are truly awful. Like if he
They
had
are,
like
and I will say that, like, as over dramatic as he is, the bullies are just as like
yeah.
hyper, like it's like hyperbullying in this movie.
If he had a Steve Buscemi like from Billy Madison To Kill list on his wall, I don't blame him for having all of those bullies on it because they are truly awful human beings.
Yes, but violence isn't the answer, and if you have a to kill list on your wall, you should seek help.
Oh, you should seek help. I'm not saying that's a normal thing to do. But when people act like this, like these people, they're ready. They were going to kill him in the wood shop. Like,
Oh yeah,
that bully was going to
100%.
murder him.
If he wouldn't have stopped the electrical machine, I don't know if I would have blamed him, but I'm also like, I'm glad you made the choice to stop it because, like, oof, that would have taken this movie and this character to a really dark place.
Oh, I mean, they already do something really shitty to him right away. Is they throw him into the gym with no clothes on while there's like the girls' volleyball going on or something like that, and it's like
and one of the girls takes a Polaroid of it, and then like starts passing it around school.
What a bitch!
Yeah, this movie is. I say this in my Letterboxd review.
He's male Carrie.
He kind of is. Like this movie feels kind of indebted to the Stephen King stuff like Carrie and Christine in certain ways. And I think a lot of it is just like the intense bullying that like Stephen King is kind of known for, mixed with like the kind of climactic act of violence is set at a dance. And then the movie just keeps going for some reason.
We'll talk about that. Yeah.
We'll talk about that. It's not a bad third act. It's just kind of like you kind of peaked already. What are you doing? Type of thing.
Yeah. we had the same feelings on that.
Okay, good.
So the movie sets up like they're doing like this like Dateline thing on Sammy Kerr on like what people think of his music. Does he worship the devil? This is what his fans believe he might be, a demonic force.
He bites the head off a snake and like
he's going full Ozzy on stage, you know.
Full Ozzy. Oh, also my favorite poster in Ragman's room is it looks like comic book art actually, where like Ozzy's just got a headless bat in his hand and like it's hanging out of his teeth. Like, oh, that's such a cool poster. I'm like, I want that poster.
I want his room. He's got a cool room.
He does have a cool room. It's like he's in the attic, it feels like.
Yeah, because he has like a slanted
the slanted ceilings. Yeah. It's cool.
And then he watches I feel for Ragman when he sees this, like watching TV and your hero, like that's how you found out, oh, my hero's died in a fire.
I had a moment like that in high school. So this is the part of the movie that I truly do empathize with, is like that first time that you like lose like a musician or just like anybody in entertainment that you look up to. Like the first time that happens, especially with like a younger entertainer that you found yourself without like the help of your parents, like it's devastating. It's like, oh, that can happen to like the people I like and not like the old fogey stuff that my dad and my mom listen to. You know what I mean? Like it's a shock to the system.
So when he goes, Gene Simmons gets one scene in this, and
he's
plays
good
like,
in it too.
He's good. He plays. I mean, he's like he's not going full opposite like Ozzy does a little later on of playing against type. He's just playing a radio DJ, like obviously there
just a straight talker.
He's there for one day to shoot a scene. They can put him on the poster type of thing, and I mean, he's good. He gives Ragman, Sammy Kerr's final unreleased album to listen to because he knows he's like the biggest fan. And then Ragman goes home, plays it backwards as metalheads do. Yeah. And we start to get like the first glimpses of something supernatural's going on. I think my favorite scene of this movie, though, talking about the soundtrack a little bit, is the Get Tough chase sequence through the school.
After Sammy gives him like the instructions
of what to do. Yep.
Yeah.
And like that's a great song. Get Tough is a banger. It's a banger song. It's a banger sequence where we have like Ragman is getting chased by all the school, like every school bully in that school is chasing
like
him.
7 of them chasing him, and he's taking them all out with like mop buckets and stuff.
Yeah.
My favorite one is that when he like spills the mop bucket and the kid slips and slides on his ass. And then there's just the shot of the stairwell. He just comes bursting through the door and like
Yeah.
flies off camera.
Yeah.
It's so Looney Tunes.
It's so funny. Like, but also like this is a perfect song to have over like a montage type
Yeah.
sequence where it's like the chase scene. Uh then we get to I want to talk about this scene. The end of the chase ends in the wood shop. And basically, Ragman is like cornered in there. One of the kids
Mhm.
is the lookout for the main bully. The main bully is like legit gonna murder him.
Yep.
And this is where we get like again, what are Sammy Kerr's powers? How do they work? Because
He can switch on a drill press and
like
all
make
that kind of
make this
stuff.
the bully's like tie gets stuck into it. So like the bully's head is laying against this drill press, and the drill's like coming towards his eye. And Ragman is the one that has to shut it off so it like he doesn't get murdered.
Yeah, because he also makes something like a sander belt starts going, it's spraying sparks, and the bully's friend is going,
He's
"Ah!"
terrified of
He
sparks. He
can't
hates
he
them.
can't walk through the sparks at all, or
Yeah.
even just like run through it quick. Like he's wearing long sleeves too. Like I
Yeah,
don't
he
get
would have
it.
been fine. Yeah.
He would have been fine.
Yeah. It would have just been like a little warm walking through it. Like
Yeah,
he would
like
have been
he
fine.
might have went ah on his hands, and that's about it.
Yeah, he would have been fine.
He was just ready to let his friend's face get like drilled in half. I mean, if I were that bully, I'd get better friends.
Yeah. I mean, all his other friends are probably dead from flying off the top
Yeah,
of a staircase. Yeah.
breaking their neck down, going down the stairwell.
Yeah.
Sammy Kerr killed some people that day.
Oh,
The
100
massacre started then.
started then. Well, he didn't kill them. They killed themselves.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. It was all accidents.
All these teenagers, they just came out and started killing themselves.
Killing themselves. So then we get the sequence in the car with one of the bullies who's like making out with the chick in this back of his car at Makeout Reef.
Oh yeah, this is after Ragman sends a peace offering in the
Yeah.
form of a cassette tape to the bully. Yeah.
Yep. And the girlfriend starts listening to that cassette tape, and like again, supernatural abilities of Sammy Kerr, like make the headphones that she's listening to like melt to her ears, and like it starts to undress her, and like she's like getting
Yeah.
into it too. And
Yep.
it's definitely an SA scene
Yeah,
by
that's
a
the part that's like not fun. I'm like, like
it's a cool scene, but also like it's a high school
yeah,
girl.
it feels a little weird that like
I'm assuming
it's a
she's a
cool
senior, and
scene, but it's like, yeah.
I'm just gonna assume she's a senior, and she turned 18 before the summer of her senior year. Just in my head
I
canon,
mean,
so
it's
it's less icky.
still icky,
It's
but
still
it's at
icky.
least
It's a little
less
less.
so.
It's a little less icky. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, the scene itself is like because you see like the ghost hands running up and down, and like
Yeah.
the effects are really cool. The idea behind it
Then it
is
like turns into like
interesting.
a monster in the
Yeah, it's
car
like a
too, like a rubber
demon, like
monster.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh god,
It's a
it's a
cool sequence.
yeah, it's like a genuinely kind of scary and unnerving sequence in a movie that doesn't have a lot of them. Like,
Yeah.
but that's one that's actually like kind of
We
full of tension because of the situation, you
we
know?
probably could have used one more scene like that where it's just like one or two teenagers that get affected by Sammy Kerr.
Yeah,
Because
like
again,
even if it's just like coming out of speakers at him or something,
something.
like
Yeah,
yeah,
something.
before he makes it to like full power or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah,
before he gets to full power at the dance, because
yeah,
that's where the movie should end. It doesn't end at that dance, like you said. It kind of
yeah.
like, why are we continuing after this
And it's
type
like
of thing?
it's an almost an hour and 40 minutes, which is kind of long for a movie like this, especially from this era. I'm
Yeah,
like, it feels like it could have been an 80-minute movie, and you might actually have like a movie that I mean, we both love this movie, but I don't think either one of us rated it like 5 stars.
no,
I think at 80 minutes, this could be like a Sam eventually rates it 5 stars a la Chopping Mall type of movie, you
yeah.
know? Like,
Before we get to the dance scene, there's only one other
yes,
thing I want to bring up first is Ozzy, because we get
yeah,
Ozzy in where he's playing like this
the
TV televangelist.
televangelist.
who's like, rock and roll music's the devil. It's the worst. Who would listen to that satanic music? He's so funny. He's so good. Again, obviously playing against type. I think he's like, Ozzy seems like he's having a blast. It's nice to see him in this. You can tell like he's hiding his ponytail behind everything too. Yeah.
He looks like he's just gotten a haircut, but you can tell that they're doing some trickery with it.
Definitely slicked back his hair, and then they tied it all in a ponytail and just like, let's not shoot anything towards the back of his head.
Yep. So good. And he has a little stinger at the end of the credits too.
Yeah, it's an after credit scene.
Yeah. Which is pretty funny. Yeah.
So
Ozzy rules.
Ozzy rules. I love Ozzy. I love seeing him pop up in this movie. He's I want to see more Ozzy cameos in horror movies.
Yeah. He's great in Goldmember.
He is. Boobs. It's always got to be about bloody boobs.
They use the same joke in the last Austin Powers movie.
What joke? Anyway.
Yeah.
The best friend gets attacked by Sammy Kerr. And basically he kind of becomes like the Renfield almost in a way, the familiar to Sammy Kerr, to do his bidding for him. And the whole thing is Sammy Kerr wants
Can we talk about how he gets the tape too?
Yeah.
Because like Eddie calls him and he's like, you got to get this tape out of this guy's car. And there's that hilarious scene of him like sitting there fiddling with the like hanger trying to get it unlocked. Yeah. And then he looks and the lock is already popped. Like he just left it unlocked.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite scenes in the whole movie. And it's just like such a stupid little throwaway, but it's so funny. And this is a character that before this doesn't get a whole lot of screen time. So like in that short amount of screen time, it was like kind of endearing and it made me give a shit about that character moving forward.
A little bit.
I'm like,
yeah.
At least a little bit. Right. And I'm like, that's a good scene. That's like a good scene to have in there. They could have just cut to him having the tape and it would have been serviceable, but I like that they did a little extra.
Yeah. The best friend played by Glenn Morgan. I don't know if you recognize that name at all.
I do recognize the name, and for whatever reason, I am drawing a fucking blank on it.
So Glenn Morgan, who's also an uncredited screenwriter on Trick or Treat, would later go on to become a director. And he directed the remake of Willard and Black Xmas.
That's right.
That's that Glenn Morgan.
That's that guy.
Yep.
He's a better actor than he is a director.
I don't agree with that. Because I like both. I like Black Christmas and Willard quite a bit.
Actually, okay, Willard is fucking phenomenal. I just don't care for his Black Christmas take. Yeah. That's me.
So he
produced my favorite Final Destination too. Just looking at his filmography.
So yeah, he was a lot of behind the scenes stuff. I think this might be one of the only acting credits he has.
Well, that's cool. Okay, I take back what I said. He's a good producer / director.
Glenn Morgan, if you're listening to this, we would love to have you on the show. Sam will even watch Black Christmas.
I will watch Black Christmas. I will give it another shot if we got Glenn Morgan on the show.
Yeah, let's make it happen.
I shouldn't say I hate that movie. I just
not for you.
It's not my flavor. Yeah, it's just not my flavor. So
my flavor though is when Sammy Kerr comes to life. Sammy Kerr lives at the high school dance, just obliterates whatever shitty lead singer is of this high school band that's about to play, destroys him. Instead, we get the awesome Trick or Treat song, the titular song of the movie.
Yeah,
Sammy Kerr sings at the Halloween dance. It's incredible. It's the best. It's the best. I love it. Should have been the finale of the movie. Starts
electrocuting people with his guitar.
Freaking obliterating people and turning them into like skeletons or making them disappear. Like it's incredible.
It's so good.
He starts swinging at one point, like just swinging through the gym.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah.
I love Sammy Kerr. He's so good.
There's a scene where they're all trying to get out and the doors won't open and they look up and he's like perched on the basketball hoop like a fucking like lynx or something. You're like, what is this? Yeah.
Again, the finale should have been there. We get like, there's like 20 30 more minutes after this,
there's
right?
still almost 30 whole minutes of movie
Yeah.
after this dance
Too
scene,
much. Too
which is
much.
insane. I'm like, you need 10 more minutes at most to like just wrap things up a little bit. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
And it does the thing, like he kills the best friend, he kills the bully at the dance as well. Like
yep.
we're
Like
setting
all
up,
of that is good.
he's
Yeah.
killing all these people. Here we go. We need that big climax. But there's like 30 minutes where like there's a car chase in it. Sammy Kerr goes to Ragman's house, ends up in a
And then
toilet.
he goes to the police or the not the police, the radio station.
Radio station at the end. Yep.
And then for some reason, Eddie's like, I have to get him away from here. So he drives the car as fast as he can away. And he tells
Girlfriend.
God, okay,
Girlfriend.
that's the biggest thing I have with this movie is that female character is a
Well,
non-character.
she's
Like
non-existent. I don't even know what
give
she
her
looks
something
like.
to do. Give her a name that somebody says throughout the movie. Like,
Yeah.
good Lord. I'm gonna guess it's Leslie is what her name is. Just
Sure.
guessing off of the IMDb
Sure.
cast list. Have no idea. Wish that she had more to do because in the little that she does, she's got good screen presence.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so she's like supposed to destroy the reels or whatever after he gets Sammy Kerr away. And yeah, Sammy Kerr got stuck in a toilet, so he's like, "Oh, water will kill him." So he drives off a bridge with Sammy Kerr in the car. Sure.
Yeah, he's in the car with him. He like somehow summons Sammy Kerr into the car and then drives it off like a bridge.
Yeah. And
Into
he
the water.
survives the crash into the water, even though.
Yeah.
Okay, so Casey, I know we're just like watching a dumb 80s movie, but you cannot tell me that the way Sammy Kerr's electric body was interacting with the toilet water,
Yeah.
that toilet water was not also electrified when his foot was in it, right?
Sure.
So how the hell is that river not coursing with electricity that is frying our young protagonist?
Because he has to live. He's the protagonist.
I guess.
I don't know.
Plot armor, right? I don't
Also,
know.
how does he get to the radio station? He doesn't have a car.
He hotwires the cop car, remember?
Oh, yeah.
There's the scene where they're like, "Oh, how are we gonna get there?" Because there's like 6 cars on the road, and he turns on the lights, and they all part like the sea for him. And he goes, "Always wanted to do that." This guy is never mind. Nope, not gonna get political. Sorry. I was gonna say something that might have been controversial, and then I shut my mouth. So. No, that's all I have to say on Trick or Treat.
The final act definitely shows where there's 3 screenwriters on this. Like they were definitely trying to figure out how is this going to work? How are we going to end this movie? Again, you ended at the
all
high
of them had a
dance.
different idea for a Sammy Kerr power, and they just put it all in.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm sure one of them came up with the high school dance. One's like, well, they got to go back to Ragman's house. One of them's like, well, we got to go to the radio station. And at some point, they ended up with, I don't know, we drive a car off a bridge, and that's how Sammy Kerr dies.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's not much trivia. Fine. Not much trivia on this movie. All the songs are performed by the band Fastway in this movie. Incredible soundtrack. Like that, I look up the soundtrack. I know it's on Spotify, so. Like, just look up the soundtrack to Trick or Treat. There's some bangers on it. Wasp frontman Blackie Lawless was offered the role of Sammy Kerr, but did not like the script enough. Can't blame him.
Probably because it should have ended at the dance. And
it's the dance. I'm sure the frontman from Wasp was like, "You guys need to end this at the dance. We'll have Wasp perform." Just like any great Full Moon Empire movie, we'll have Wasp in the movie. And they'll perform at the high school dance. Yeah, the movie definitely should have ended there. And then Glenn Morgan, obviously, this was one of his only acting credits, would later go on to make horror movies of his own with Black Christmas and Willard.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
So that is Trick or Treat 1986. Sam, final thoughts, and would you recommend people watch Trick or Treat? And how many electric guitars out of 5 are you giving this movie?
I would recommend that people seek out Trick or Treat. Definitely seek out the 4K restoration, either on Screenbox or when that gets its physical media release down the road. You can watch it on the YouTube rip. It's just it's definitely better when you actually know what people are saying and what's
Yeah.
happening on screen. It's better restored.
Yeah.
Yeah, I give this like 3.5 out of 5 electric guitars. Um I like it. I like it. It's a
Yeah.
good movie. It's a fun movie. It's a movie that I've watched like 3 times in the last like year and a half. So I mean,
Yeah.
you got to kind of realize like, yeah, it's a good movie. Or it's a very at the very least one that I enjoy enough to watch 3 times in like 24 months.
Yeah.
So, what about you?
I'm at the same thing. 3.5 is what I'm giving this out of electrified electric guitars. This movie is a ton of fun. I love Sammy Kerr. Like Sammy Kerr is one of my favorite like fictional movie musicians. I think he would go like on my Mount Rushmore of fictional movie musicians. I think he's so good. He's so much fun. I love his ambiguous powers that he gets in the afterlife. What his actual goals are, like, are kind of also ambiguous of what he wants out
Yeah.
of this. Like he wants to I don't know what he wants. Like
He's
he
the
wants
biggest
to
rock star in the world, and he wanted to play a high school gym on Halloween night. That's weird, man.
and they also like invited him because that was the high school he went to. He was already like he had the
Yeah.
gig if he wanted it. I don't know what he wanted
Yeah,
out of this.
it's strange. It's
I love
strange.
Ragman. Ragman is I said my piece on loving Ragman as a metalhead character in a movie. I think he's incredible. Yeah, the movie's a ton of fun. It's an absolute blast. Not enough Halloween in this Halloween movie. The town could have
Agreed
used
with
more
that.
Halloween. The Halloween dance has the most amount of it, but the rest of the town could have gotten into the spirit. Luckily, with our other trick or treat, we get plenty of that and more.
Also, gonna drop one hot take before we move on to Trick or Treat. One more
Okay.
about this movie, and it would have obliterated the idea for this episode. But I think Ragman's a better title, and I wish they would have stuck with it.
Mm.
It's more interesting to me than just like a generic trick or treat, especially when there's not all that much Halloween stuff.
Yeah, for this
I
movie, it
just,
would have worked better. Yeah.
yeah. But I'm
What
glad that they called it trick or treat because otherwise we wouldn't be doing this episode.
exactly? We would have done it like we would have done that with Black Roses or something
Yeah,
like
with
that. We
like
would have
black
done something
roses
like
or
that.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Sam, before we jump to trick or treat, let's pay some bills, or at least try to pay some bills with
Yeah.
our first ad break of the podcast. All right. So, for over 40 years, Fangoria, you might have heard of them, has been the leading source for all things horror. If you grew up in the 80s, you definitely got those magazines of, hey, this is the next new horror hit that you need to check out. That was also where Freddy and Jason were first kind of teased of teaming up together and fighting one another in a versus movie. So, the famed magazine is back with a vengeance every quarter with a brand new magazine with in-depth discussions on the best contemporary horror, sci-fi, and macabre. So, if you want to get the latest issue or some back issues or even some Fango merch, you can get some t-shirts, mugs, anything else cool Fango merch related. You can use our affiliate link to save 20% on your annual subscription to the magazine or any of those purchases made by using our affiliate code link, which is shop.fangoria.com/screams in the basement. Use promo code screams from the basement and get 20% off your order. That includes everything on the site by using our affiliate link and affiliate code, which if you're watching us on YouTube, you can just scan that QR code right below us and that'll take you directly to shop.fangoria.com/screams from the basement. All right, so Trick or Treat from 2000. I wrote this down as 2007.
Yeah, it's one of those weird development hell movies. There we
Well,
go.
we'll
Not
talk about that.
development, but yeah.
Maybe before we even get into the movie, we can talk about the history of Trick or Treat because it has a
Yeah.
fascinating history.
Yeah.
So first of all, let's jump into what is this movie? Who's behind this movie? Directed by and written by Michael Dougherty. This is 4 tales of terror await on this horror anthology. That is to the holiday of Halloween, as A Christmas Story is to Christmas, I would say. These tales include ghosts, vampires, werewolves, a Halloween hero by the name of Sam. Not that Sam. Not that Sam. That Sam behind me. The Sam with the lollipop knife. That Sam.
All my Sam stuff is in my kitchen, so
Sam is haunting Sam's kitchen. And so this is a horror anthology. Again, came out in 2007 is what we'll say is what the date is, but actually was released straight to DVD in 2009. So a little bit on the history of this movie. Again, written, directed by Michael Dougherty. You might recognize that name. He did go on to make plenty of other works as well. He directed Krampus. He also did Godzilla, King of the Monsters as well. And he's had producer credits and writing credits throughout his career. So this movie came about because this is based on his short animated film that he did called Season's Greetings that he did when he was in school, which is like a 5-minute, maybe shorter, little animated film that he made where we get the first introduction to the character of Sam, which Sam is he wears this orange kind of pajama jumpsuit and he has a burlap sack with button eyes on it. And he is like the embodiment of the Halloween spirit. Like Santa Claus is the embodiment of the Christmas spirit. That's what Sam is to Halloween. And that's really what Mike Dougherty was setting out to create of like, hey, why don't we have an icon for Halloween like we do for Christmas? And it does. It makes sense. And why don't we have that? And I think he eventually got to that where I think people do consider Sam an icon of the holiday.
Yeah. Oh, so, for sure.
Mike was actually one of the co-writers on he who shall not be named, who is credited in this movie as a producer on
it. Yeah, Bryan Singer.
Mike was also a co-writer on the Superman Returns film that Bryan Singer did.
And X2, which is the best X-Men movie.
So worked directly with Bryan Singer very closely. You do see the crossover in the cast as well.
Oh, yeah, Brian Cox,
Anna Paquin. Yep. So the crossovers there, you definitely see the I don't know, what's the intertwining between the two.
Yeah. There's a little bit of shared family there.
Yep. And so this was kind of that passion project for Mike Dougherty of like, hey, this is what I want to make on my own. This is like, I have this character, Sam. I want to make a horror anthology in the vein of Creepshow. We haven't had those in a while. Anthologies were kind of dead by the mid 2000s. Like no one wanted to bank on that at all. Everyone wanted Saw, torture porn type movies or remakes.
Yep.
So this was really one of those
into that era.
Yeah, deep into that era. So much so that when this movie was set for a Halloween 2007 release in theaters, Warner Brothers got a little cold feet when they realized a Saw movie was also coming out that same October.
Well, not to mention, never mind. Rob Zombie's Halloween did not actually come out in Halloween months, did it?
I believe it came out.
It came out in like April? Didn't it? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, never mind. God, that's insane.
Yeah.
What the hell? Yeah. 2007. What were you doing?
Yep. And so this movie was literally, it was done, ready to go. Had an all-star cast. It's an incredible movie and just sat on Warner Brothers shelves for 2 years until it was released straight to DVD in 2009. And if you know anything about 2009, what a dead space for straight to DVD. Blockbuster's dying. What? You're giving me a weird look.
Yeah, you're not coming for my year of 2009 like that. That was an epic year in horror.
Oh, it was an epic year all around. I mean, 2009 was a great year.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to Blockbuster every weekend in 2009.
No, that is true. That's fair.
Netflix is still sending people DVDs, and I think people are starting to figure out what that is. Like that's kind of I feel like 09, 08 is like when people are starting to figure that out. And streaming is really not a thing at all in 2009.
It's pretty new, yeah.
Yeah. So a dead zone for movies, especially if you're going to go that route at that point. But somehow, some way, this movie just started to pick up steam every year. I think people fell in love with the title and fell in love with the character of Sam, and eventually this movie became a straight up cult hit. I think Spirit Halloween is also a big influence on why people love this movie, because as soon as they got the merchandising rights, I feel like this movie blew up.
Yep.
Because of
I also
Spirit
think
Halloween.
I also think vice versa. This movie is a big part of what keeps Spirit Halloween profitable each and every year.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Like there's a definitely a yin and the yang between
Yeah.
Trick or Treat merch and Spirit Halloween, and just having those two kind of intertwined.
Yep. Mutually beneficial.
Yeah. So yeah, that's kind of the history on this movie. What a weird winding story to end up in 2024, where this is a straight up certified cult classic movie. I think many people watch this at least once every Halloween season.
Oh,
For
yeah.
us, it's probably two or three times that we
Yeah.
end up watching this movie during Halloween season.
Maria didn't even watch this one with me when I watched it for the podcast because she's like, "We'll watch it like 3 more times before Halloween." And I'm like,
Yep.
"You're not wrong."
Yeah. So the first time I watched this, though, I knew about this movie, but I had never seen it until me and Kayla started dating.
Oh, really?
And this is one of
Wow.
Kayla's favorite movies, period, ever.
Mhm.
Like, she loves Sam. Sam is one of her favorite characters. So when I finally watched it, I was like, yeah, I get it. I'm glad I finally watched it, because this is just what Mike Doherty was going for, of like this movie being the spirit of Halloween is the spirit of Halloween. Because like this
Mhm.
movie, just every ounce of it just bleeds orange. It's incredible. I love it. I think this is the most Halloween movie to ever Halloween.
Yep.
What about you? What was the first time you watched Trick or Treat?
I honestly do not remember. I'm pretty sure it was in a friend's basement. It was just one of those it's one of those movies that, like, it is so permeated, like, who I am as a horror fan and who I am, like, as just someone who loves Halloween. Like, I don't really remember my specific history with it because it's just kind of been there, you know? This was a movie that it came out in DVD in 2009, which was when I was, like, really starting to get into horror. That was, like, sophomore
Mm-hmm.
year of high school where it was like, "Oh, like, I like horror. This isn't just something that I'm watching at friends' houses because it's what's on. Like, this is something I'm seeking out." And so, like, I know I watched this movie back in 2009. Um, because of this movie, I went onto YouTube and I went back and I watched, like, the little season's greeting short that Mike had on there. Like, I've it was cool that it was a movie about Halloween, which was one of my favorite at the time, one of my favorite holidays, now my favorite holiday. And it was cool that there was a movie with a Halloween icon that shared a namesake with me. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, this movie is just, like, part of me, as dumb as that sounds, but, like, it's there. It's always been there.
Yeah.
Um, and
Like I said with the Christmas Story, like for me, Christmas Story is just
yeah, yeah.
there, and it's something you do around Christmas season. You watch a Christmas Story.
Right. Like, do you remember really the first time you watched it? Or even like it's just yeah, it's one of those. And it's like it kind of feels weird to say that about a movie that came out when you were like 16, but like I don't really remember. Like it just was there.
Yeah.
Um and yeah, I love this movie. I think it's fucking perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Yeah. It's a perfect movie, and again, it might be blasphemy for some people to not say Halloween. John Carpenter's Halloween is like the definitive Halloween movie, but Trick or Treat is the definitive Halloween movie. It just
Yeah.
is.
Like, to me, Halloween is one of my favorite movies of all time. Like,
Yeah.
same as this one. But, like, if you want something that's, like, pure distilled Halloween porn, basically,
Mm-hmm.
this is the movie
This
you
is
put
it.
on. It's Trick or Treat, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go through some of the segments in this movie.
Mhm.
Kind of maybe can go segment by segment here, because
Yeah.
they all
You know
so the cool thing about the storytelling of Trick or Treat, if people haven't watched it or maybe haven't watched it in a while, I'm sure a lot of people watch this every year like us. But the stories are all intertwined in this anthology, much like Pulp Fiction, where you're jumping between stories and you're jumping between chronologically when they take place.
It's better than Pulp Fiction.
Sam says it's better than Pulp Fiction.
It's better than Pulp Fiction in every way, full-bodied. I love Tarantino. Don't come at me, you nerds. But Pulp Fiction walked so Trick or Treat could run, okay? Yeah. This movie, its editing, the way it seamlessly intertwines these stories. Like, Pulp Fiction is great, but Pulp Fiction is chapters. Yeah. And they don't mix all that much. They don't interconnect. Yeah. It's not like Tarantino's going between like ghosts in a fucking quarry and werewolf women tearing people apart. Like, he's not doing that shit. Mike Doherty is doing that shit.
Yeah, he's not doing this. Dad's a serial killer. Also, like, he's a vampire who stalks women in the night.
Yeah, like, the way you find out different things about the different characters and where they've all been and what piece they have of this like fucked up little puzzle that Sam is just kind of not even really, he's not even pushing.
He's observing.
He's just observing. And like,
he's making sure all the rules of Halloween are being followed. Like, making sure things happen as they're supposed to on Halloween night. And that's why I love the character of Sam. He's not like out for vengeance against anyone.
No,
he's like, you follow these rules that we have for Halloween, and you're fine. Enjoy the holiday. That's what he's there for. Yep. And if you don't, he's gonna slash your throat with a razor blade candy bar, like,
or a lollipop that he bites part
takes
half
a big ass
like,
bite out.
Oh God, I just love that. Like, my favorite shot, jumping to the end. I'm sorry, my favorite shot on this rewatch is him leaving the old man's house after the old man gives him candy and he leaves.
Yeah.
Because the rule has been followed.
Yeah.
And then he sees Leslie Bibb from the opening blow out the pumpkin. And it's almost like this, like, he perks up and he looks down at his freshly bit lollipop that he didn't get to use. And it's almost like he skips off. He's like, oh, I get to use this.
It's like, I'm going to use this.
So good. It's so good. I've never noticed that like little moment before where he kind of like looks at the lollipop and the light bulb like goes off. And I'm just like, fuck, that's good.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times I've watched this movie and like I still find little things every time that I'm just like, this movie's perfect. It's so good.
Mm-hmm. So the movie's bookended by the Leslie Bibb segment of this movie where she and her husband were out on a night on this town. We're like, I want to visit this town on Halloween. It seems like a party in this town.
She's Scrooge. If Scrooge just got like,
she's like, my mom's coming over tomorrow and you need to get rid of all this Halloween crap on Halloween night. We're not, because like my mom apparently won't understand we celebrated Halloween on Halloween the night before. You need to tear all this down tonight at midnight. Like,
yeah.
And so the first rule she breaks, she blows out. I didn't know this was a rule, like, until this movie, but do not blow out your jack-o'-lantern till after Halloween ends.
Yep. You have to wait until midnight. You have to wait until midnight.
And she does not.
No, she does not.
She does not. She instead sends her horny husband upstairs to go put on a porno tape while she apparently cleans up. Like,
yeah. It just makes no sense.
Makes no sense. Funny. It's so funny. And then Sam ends up attacking her with his lollipop, his pumpkin lollipop weapon.
Yep. And the way it's shot and like the different ways it doesn't pay off before it pays off, I just love it. It's like very cat and mousey, like, but with the audience where it's like, oh, where is this gonna happen? It's a perfect opening to set the tone.
Ends with her like strung up like one of the ghosts in her yard with the lollipop in her mouth.
Yeah, like her husband pulls off the sheet and just reveals her like basically Jesus on the cross, but with a lollipop.
Yeah.
Shoved down
her throat. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Brutal opening.
Opening, incredible. It's a tone setter because then we get the credits of like it's a comic book credits. Like all of this is anthology. It's very creep show in that matter of
yeah.
taking place during comic books. There's actually has been a sequel comic book that has come out to Trick or Treat.
Is there really?
Yeah, there is. Written by Mike
Oh shit.
Doherty. Yeah. We have it. I'll let you borrow.
Oh my god, yeah, I'd
But
love to read
it's
that.
also like telling like through different eras, telling stories that Sam
Oh,
is
that
involved in.
rules.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a great book, but yeah, this definitely sets up that we need a sequel to this goddamn movie. Anyway,
We do. I think it's actually happening. I think Doherty has said it's actually happening.
he's also said that like before he even made Godzilla.
Yeah, I know, but I always believe him because I want it to happen.
I want it to
This is
happen.
like
I think it could happen, but
this is like my Hocus Pocus too, where like I'll share fake posters and I'll be like, it's happening.
this is
I'm not fact
Beetlejuice
checking.
until it happens.
Yeah.
Jump to the next segment. Let's go to the Dylan Baker who plays Principal Wilkins.
Principal Wilkins with his annoying ass little serial killer kid.
I love his kid. His kid
His
is so
kid
funny.
is so funny.
He's so funny. So this is the always check your candy portion of following the rules. We get this big kid who like is like destroying all the jack-o'-lanterns on the street,
Yeah,
taking as much candy as he wants from everyone's trick-or-treat buckets that they have outside. And Principal Wilkins, played by Dylan Baker, decides to teach this kid a lesson. And the lesson is always check your candy, because he has not only poisoned it, which is how this kid dies, also put razor blades in all these candy bars, which again ties into the final segment with Brian Cox of the razor blade candy.
And that's such a good payoff. Such a good payoff. Yeah. I love this sequence just sitting on the porch steps.
Yep.
Like, because it's just kind of you get the sense that something's off, but like the principal hasn't done anything yet to make you think anything other than like he's just kind of a little off. And he's trying to make sure this kid has and then the kid starts puking up a mixture of blood and chocolate.
Just like spewing out of his mouth.
Like, just for an obnoxiously long time, to the point where you're like, he doesn't have any blood left in him because it is literally just on the steps. Like, that kid died of blood loss through the freaking mouth. Like,
And so he drags this kid to the backyard and he's going to bury him in his backyard. And we get, like, again, crossing over between segments. You get across the way, you get Brian Cox, who plays his neighbor, like yelling at him, like, what the hell are you doing out there? Yeah. By the time he finishes burying this kid in his backyard, Brian Cox is getting attacked by Sam next door.
So which you don't get to see. Yeah. And you don't get to see that until towards the end of the movie.
End of the movie.
Yeah. And just the way they I love it. I love it.
One of my favorite lines, two of my favorite lines come from Principal Wilkins' kid. I think he's so funny. He has some great lines and great line delivery. He keeps yelling at his dad, like, you need to help me carve the pumpkin.
Yeah.
And he's like, the dad, Dylan Baker's like, go inside and watch Charlie Brown. And this kid gives my favorite line of this movie. Charlie Brown's an asshole.
Yeah.
Incredible line.
Oh,
I also agree.
So funny.
Charlie Brown is an asshole.
No, everybody's an asshole to Charlie Brown. Fuck you.
Charlie Brown's the worst.
You like Ragman, but you don't like Charlie Brown. You have terrible taste in humans.
Yeah. No, not a Charlie Brown kid. Give me Snoopy all day. That
Snoopy's an asshole.
Oh, Charlie Brown is
the biggest asshole.
Charlie Brown didn't deserve that dog.
No, Charlie Brown gives him freaking bones after bone after bone, and like all Charlie Brown gets is boned from Snoopy. Okay, Snoopy sucks.
He deserves it. But also, this kid delivers a terrifying line every time I hear it. Is you need to help me with the eyes.
Yeah,
and he says it like 3 times. Like it's setting up like, all right, this is what this kid needs help with. So when Principal Wilkins comes back in the house and the kid asks again, can you help me with the eyes? And you see Dylan Baker picks up the knife like he's going to murder his son and like holds his son's head. And you just hear the like stabbing into something and it pulls out and you see like the kid is fine. and you just see the head of the chubby kid
he
from
poisoned.
earlier who that he poisoned, just sitting on the table, and you hear the kid like give this creepy line of, "You have to help me with the eyes." It's like,
Yep.
they're gonna carve up this other kid's head. It's incredible.
Yeah. Did you okay, so there's a scene at the towards the end where the kid is giving candy on the porch by himself,
Where he's
and he's
dressed up
literally
like his dad.
he's dressed like his dad with the same blood streak and everything, and it cracks me up every fucking time. It's so funny.
I feel so bad for the kid because his dad's not coming home.
Oh, his dad's not coming home. His dad's fucking dead.
They
His
murdered together. It was a bonding experience where they got to
his
carve
dad
human
at that
heads.
point in the movie is probably dog shit on the side of the road.
Quite literally.
Literally.
So the next one is the school bus massacre. I'll
This
let you
one.
take this one. This seems like
Okay.
your favorite one.
This
Is this
one
your
is my
favorite one?
favorite. This
Okay.
is probably okay. It's between this one and what I'm guessing is the next one we'll talk about.
The
The werewolves.
the werewolves. That's my favorite
Yeah.
one.
Okay. So like here's the thing. I think the werewolves one is more fun, but the bus massacre one is the one that
It's
just
so
like
good.
sticks with me. And
And
it's
it's got that
basically
like playground lore behind it too.
yeah, it's
I
so
love
good.
with
It's like very urban
sucker.
legendy
Yep.
and creepy, and the whole thing just reeks of like sadness and just oh, it just makes you feel like the world is just not worth saving. And that's just like some of my favorite kind of horror, I guess. I don't know. Because it opens with like these teenagers who are clearly up to something, but like you've got the bitchy blonde that was kind of a prototype of this era
Yeah.
playing the like sweet nice girl who's getting pumpkins for like charity or something. I don't know. She comes up with some bullshit lie that all the adults seem to be okay. Her and her friends go to like the swingers house.
Also, one of their is it their gym coach
Yeah.
is wearing a hot dog costume and like
Yes.
grinding against someone. More on him later. I don't know if
Yeah,
you noticed he comes back later in the movie.
he does. Oh my god. Oh my god. I had not made that connection
Yeah.
before. I love this movie. Ah, it's so good. Um yeah, so they're like gathering jack-o'-lanterns, and along the way they pick up this girl who we've seen a few times before. I believe her name is Rhonda, correct?
Rhonda. Yep.
Rhonda, yes. And Rhonda is just, she's kind of strange and she's quiet and she's wheeling her little like basket around. And they convince
She's
her to come
carved
to
like hundreds of jack-o'-lanterns in front of
yes.
her house. Like
She's got jack-o'-lanterns up the schnoz.
she knows
So
the
they
history
collect
of Halloween.
yeah, she like even calls it Samhain and
Mhm.
like all that kind of stuff. Not Sam Hain, Halloween 2, Donald Pleasance. um, yeah. So these kids they go to the rock quarry and she tells this awful story about a bus driver who is paid to murder mentally disabled children on a bus. But one of the kids like it's such a sad story where he's like
He
going to like
figured it
just
out.
yeah, one of the kids like figures it out because he counts the address numbers as they go and he knows what address numbers they're going. And through a series of events, he gets out of his restraints that this bus driver has them in and he takes the whole bus over the cliff with the bus driver in it. We do see I think it would have been cooler to not see the bus driver make it out in this flashback. It's like my one qualm with the movie
Mm.
because I think it would have made the reveal at the very end hit even harder. I think. I don't know.
I
Like
think it works both ways. Yeah.
it works. It's just like I don't know. For me, I just wouldn't have put that in there. Like if I were editing this, but I'm not an editor, so fuck me. What do I know? Um Yeah, so these kids go down into this ravine, this rock quarry after this girl tells the story to supposedly put out 8 jack-o'-lanterns for the lives that were lost. But what they've really gone down there to do is to scare Rhonda by dressing up as some of the kids and pretending to disembowel the little pirate kid who's like way too young to be hanging out with these kids. Like, what the hell?
Oh, I mean, they're all middle schoolers.
Yeah, I suppose maybe he's just a late bloomer like I was. I don't know.
He's the short, pudgy kid. Some of us were short and pudgy in middle
that's
school.
fair.
Damn it.
I was just short and twiggy. So yeah. So they go down there, they scare Rhonda. Rhonda hits her head. Like, Rhonda's gonna need stitches.
Oh yeah.
Like, really shit thing for these kids to do, but they're kids. Kids do dumb shit. But then the real kids, like, they find out it's actually a real thing, and the real ghost kids come out of the lake, as they call it. It's a fucking quarry.
It's a quarry that has, I mean, it had water on the bottom.
Yeah, it has water in it, but I don't consider quarries lakes.
Enough to sink a school bus.
Yes, although the school bus is like up out of the water, which is kind of a cool visual. I do love that. And Rhonda just leaves them. Rhonda leaves them to get murdered by these little ghost kids. Like, no one wins in this scenario, not even Rhonda. Like, it's so sad. Like, that she is like, I can't say that I would have made a different choice in her shoes after what she had just experienced, but like, damn, she's gonna live with that for the rest of her life, Oof.
She made the right choice.
It's just a melancholy, like, dour segment in a movie that's full of kind of like fun stuff, like the next segment that we'll talk about.
I have a blast with this segment. It's so much fun.
Blast with it, but it's like the most tonally like, this is like,
you up. Yeah,
this is bad. Like, yeah,
what I love
is my favorite segment. Yeah,
she rides like the elevator back to the top, and Sam is up there waiting.
Yes,
and he
she gets still up has and, her lit pumpkin.
Yep. Yeah, and he gets up and like walks over to the quarry. That's like all these kids are screaming and stuff, like just watching them.
Yep.
I need a spinoff where Rhonda and Sam go on
adventures together. Yes. So like every shot where it's like revealed that Sam has been watching the entire thing play out, every time they do a shot that's like, oh, he's been here. Favorite shots in the movie. They're always gorgeous. The way they frame Sam in this is amazing. I think the one in the woods is probably my favorite.
That's the best one. Yeah.
But like close second is this one. Yeah. I love him in the like giant concrete tube. I don't know what the hell those are. I'm not a construction worker. Yeah. I didn't go to construction school. So I don't know. Yeah, this segment to me is just like it's the darkest one. It's so good. Like I just the urban legend factor to it. I just love Rhonda as a character. It's perfect. It zings. If it was just a short film on its own, it'd be one of the best short films ever. I love it. I love it so much.
Next segment is the werewolf segment. This is the kind of one that's intertwined the most throughout the movie, because it's set up like right away at the beginning where you have all the girls. Anna Paquin's the main one. She's the one that's like apprehensive about going to this Halloween party that all her friends want to go to. Yeah, she's the virgin who's never been with a guy before. And they're all at this. I always love in Halloween movies where they're at a Halloween store buying costumes on Halloween Day. I think it's so funny. It's like no one's prepared to buy your Halloween costume before Halloween.
And there's always like way more dressing rooms than there ever is in a costume shop. Like there's always like a row of just like eight dressing rooms. And I'm like, there's literally just like a curtain in the back of a Spirit Halloween. Like that's it.
Yeah. And they're talking about all the parties they've gone to in the past where one of them's like, yeah, like this last time I had some bad Mexican that night. It upset my stomach. Like they're all like hinting at like double entendres of like talking about a party while also talking about what happens later of, they're werewolves and they eat people.
Yep.
It's great stuff. The kid, so a piece of trivia: the kid that's running through the store and like pervs on these girls is Quinn Lord, who plays Sam.
Oh, is it? I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
yeah.
That's cool. Okay.
So they all end up going to this big party out in the woods. Cool Halloween party with a bonfire, drinking beer. People are all out there.
Yeah.
Except Anna Paquin, who decides to hang back in the town, and she's going to find a guy there.
And she
And
finds like a vampire serial killer.
yes, like a seductive vampire serial killer who we see like kills this woman in a back alley and like just leaves her to die while the parade is going on outside. And yeah, he's just super.
Oh yeah. Another Leslie Bibb pop up where
Yeah.
she's like, "Oh, honey, she's drunk," and she like pushes her husband along away from this bleeding woman that clearly needs help. And I'm like,
it's Halloween. It's makeup.
Every time she's on screen, it's like they just give you one more reason that she sucks.
she deserved what she got at the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this vampire ends up like stalking Anna Paquin, who's dressed up as Little Red Riding into the woods. She's dressed up like Little Red Riding Hood, like further implying one, she's getting stalked by someone like a Little Red Riding Hood character,
maybe even a wolf,
but maybe a wolf. And also, yeah, the ties into she's a werewolf. She's dressed up as Little Red Riding Hood. So they end up at this party, and like they hear her scream, and then they end up like seeing her cloak that she's wearing like fall from a tree. And the other girlfriends go up and check on it, and it's the vampire dude.
Yep.
And they later unmask the vampire dude. It's Dylan Baker.
Yep.
Who like is a serial killer while also masquerading as a vampire serial killer too in the town.
He hasn't figured out his MO yet. He's still testing the water, seeing who he is as a serial killer.
He's a serial killer. He kills kids and apparently women as well.
Yes.
Like,
yep. He's trying to figure out what he likes better.
What he likes better. Also, like he's getting the scent off. The scent.
Yeah.
Like the wolves are getting the scent off him by killing different types of people. And then it's revealed in an incredible sequence with Marilyn Manson's Sweet Dreams playing in the background that all these women are werewolves, and they like start peeling their skin off and ripping their face off and their costumes. They end up as these hairy ass werewolves. Like, it's incredible.
And they're werewolves. Like they're not like, oh, they're like
sexy werewolves
in female body suits with fur on them. Like they're just fucking wolves underneath this. Can I just drop another hot take and say, like, look, never gonna denounce like a Rick Baker effect. He's amazing. We owe a lot to An American Werewolf in London, but for my money, this is my favorite werewolf transformation scene in cinema.
It's fair enough.
The way that like there's the shot of a girl like plunging her nail into the back of Anna Paquin and unzipping her skin like it's a dress.
Like it's a dress.
She just like, and I'm just like,
and then
what
they're like
is
peeling off their arms like they're wearing like a
lace gloves or something.
Glove or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So good. And like the shots of like the skin hitting the ground and just all
like flopping.
It's so gnarly, and it's like it's set to the Sweet Dreams. Anna Paquin's giving this like seductive but terrifying monologue to Dylan Baker as she starts like her teeth start growing and her eyes are going, and there's the great kind of cheap looking but like who gives a shit animatronic werewolf right next to her that's like watching her do her first kill. Oh, the scene is so great. It's so great.
And then you get the incredible shot of Sam just sitting on a log watching this happen.
Watching this werewolf death orgy. Like,
yeah.
So good.
What's the Halloween rule that they're not following?
Oh, I don't know if they're not following anything.
No, not them. I guess it'd be for Dylan Baker, probably.
Yeah.
Is it for putting it's probably for putting razor blades.
It's probably because of that. Yeah, like just because there's a rule that says always check your candy doesn't mean that the people who put shit in candy are
get
like
away.
That's bullshit.
Yeah. All right, final segment now. The most involved with Sam, the
Yes.
character of Sam, where you get Brian Cox returns back into this, where it's revealed where he was the bus driver from that
Yep.
terrible accident that happened. He was the one that was paid off by these families, and he just hates Halloween. He's a Scrooge for Halloween. Will not
Yep.
give kids candy when they come up to his door, and that's a big no-no for our friend Sam.
Yep.
So we get this like big fight sequence inside the house where like Sam is like creeping around the house and he writes all the like all the
trick or
rules of
treats and
Halloween all
rules.
over the walls.
There's the incredible shot where Brian Cox is at the door, and there's the angled up shot where you just see Sam like poke his head from above the stairwell and then just crawl onto the ceiling and go off screen. Like it's just it's so good. It's so good.
Sam gets his mask taken off at some point during this, and you see what he looks like under the mask, and he's like a little pumpkin head. Yeah, he's like a little pumpkin head.
Yeah.
And like his body is literally made of pumpkin. Like his hand gets shot off at some point, and like you see pumpkin guts and pumpkin seeds fall out of it.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
And he's able to like stitch himself back up together, like, and the sound design in this sequence is so good. Yeah, just incredible. Like
you get the payoff of the razor blades with candy, the candy bars with razor blades in them, as he uses that as a weapon.
Yep. He breaks.
He slashes his like Achilles heel like Gage.
Yeah, it's like in Pet Sematary. Yeah. It feels like a direct reference, right? Like that has to be an homage. Yeah. Oh, yeah. This sequence is amazing. It's a great cat and mouse sequence that doesn't wear out its welcome. Like it's a longer fight sequence, but it's not. I love Child's Play, but like, you know how Chucky just dies a few too many times in that and then keeps coming back? Like they don't overplay that with Sam. Like he gets messed up, but like they never do that. They never do it.
They never do it
where it's like
where he's dead and Brian Cox thinks he's dead and he actually comes back. They don't ever do that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So it's great.
I love that he's about to stab Brian Cox, and then there's just like a candy bar that he puts there to block it. And like, oh hey, you got me my candy for trick or treating. Like I'm just gonna walk away. And Sam is so goddamn cute in that. Like he just starts eating the candy bar.
And that's when he walks outside. He sees Leslie Bibb blow out the pumpkin. And he has his little light bulb moment with his lollipop. Amazing. Then you've got Brian Cox all like bandaged up, like he's got his own arm in a sling, and he's handing out candy to every kid that knocks on his door. And the one kid says the funny thing, like, "Nice mummy costume, Mr.
Craig."
Yeah.
Yeah. And then all the segments tie in together at the end, where you have the girls are driving up after their massacre in their car.
And they almost hit Rhonda.
She's crossing the street. And then you have Leslie Bibb on the other side blowing out her pumpkin. Sam is making his way over. God, this movie's incredible.
Yep. You have the kid. You have Dylan Baker's kid handing out candy dressed like his dad. Like that kid is going to be a serial killer, but I can't help but not like, you got to root for him a little bit. Like he just wants to be like his dad so bad.
Yep.
Adorable little kid.
All right. Ready for some trivia before we get to our final thoughts on Trick or Treat on this incredible 5-star banger.
Yep.
Brian Cox, he based his look on John Carpenter for this movie.
I could see that.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if John Carpenter would be thrilled to hear that.
He was not playing enough like video games or watching NBA. He was instead watching Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island.
Yes, there is a Zombie Island cameo. He should have had a bong too if he was going for John Carpenter vibes.
Yeah, it was probably there. In the bonfire scene, I have two pieces of trivia there. One is that you can hear Cry Little Sister in the background when she's on the phone talking to Anna Paquin when her friend is on the phone.
Yep.
You can hear Cry Little Sister.
Hell
Much
yeah.
like in The Lost Boys, there's a bonfire.
Yep.
Instead of vampires, it's werewolves this time. Definitely a straight up homage to Lost Boys there.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And then during the massacre scene where it's revealed that they're all werewolves, you see a guy in a hot dog costume like roll into frame.
That's right. That's right. Yep.
Definitely the principal of those kids, or principal, the like gym teacher
Coach,
of those
the gym
kids.
teacher, yeah.
Whatever. Yeah. Yep. Who made his way to that party afterwards. Yep.
Should have stopped at one party that night, dude.
Should have stopped.
Oof.
Hot dog costume was not that cool.
Nope.
All right. Well, Trick or Treat. Final thoughts. I'll go first. I'll give this movie five pumpkins out of 5 pumpkins. It's a 5 pumpkin movie. I love it. It's perfect. There's nothing I would change about this movie. Again, like I said, it's one we watch at least once every single Halloween season. All the segments hit. This is a rare anthology where I think there's not a bad one.
Yeah.
And it's hard. Like any of them could be my favorite one. It's I can't think of another anthology that does that. Even the best of the best don't do that. And Trick or Treat is the best of the best, and it does it.
Yep. I agree. Like, you can't take out a single segment in this movie and not have it diminish in quality. Like, every segment is just vital to this movie's DNA. And I love it. Like you. Not much else to say about it. It's 5 out of 5 for me. I love this movie. It is an every Halloween watch. It's one of the movies that if, I'm like in the middle of February and I'm like, oh, I just need like a hit of Halloween spirit, I will throw this movie on in February just to like
hit me with those fall vibes. Yep.
Yeah, like
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Amazing movie.
Amazing movie. Love it.
All right. Let me pull up our notes here because we're done with Trick or Treat.
Yeah.
We're done
trick or treating. We're done trick or treating.
We're done trick or treating.
Yeah.
We're gonna be moving on to Doobie Doing, but first, we have another ad read.
All right.
Oh my God, Boris!
Look, Boris is here to help with the ad read.
Boris is here to help with the ad read, but he almost just like completely messed up my whole.
Destroyed everything.
Yeah, just about destroyed everything. Hopped right up on the computer. No. Yeah. All right. Our next sponsor is Turp Boys. Looking for that extra buzz while watching the Texas Chainsaw Massacre? How about melting your mind when you're watching the latest Cronenberg movie? Turp Boys Delta 8, Delta 9, THCA and THCA gummies, vapes, chocolates, and more has you covered. Yeah, we've all had a bad day at work. We've all had rough weeks. Maybe you get home, you want to take a little edge off. You want to watch some horror movies while also just kind of melting into your couch. Well, this plant-based product is made from the purest organic hemp-based extracts and backed by third-party laboratories. It's great. You can visit buyturpboys.com/screamsfromthebasementpod and use promo code screamsfromthebasementpod, no spaces, all one word, at checkout to save 10% off your order and get a little loose while you're watching some horror movies.
Follow the QR code below.
Oh, yeah, there's a QR code if you're watching on YouTube.
Scan it.
Scan the QR code. It's great. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff.
All right. Well, thanks to our sponsors, Fangoria and Turp Boys, for helping out on this episode, keeping the lights on in the basement, so to say. But Sam, what's up next?
Bulb hanging from a thread.
Just that single light bulb. That's all we need to light up this basement. Let's light up this podcast with our next segment, though.
Hell yeah. Casey, we've kind of abbreviated some of this because Lord knows it's been a month, so we've been doing a lot. But what have you been doing recently?
Okay, so again, I'm abbreviating this to kind of just narrow it down because, again, we watched so much stuff. We did so many different things. We're not going to go through it all. I'm just going to hit. I have all new releases and then one rewatch to talk about.
Yep.
So I'll start with the rewatch first of all. I rewatched the movie Siren. from 2016, I believe, is when this came out, if I'm not mistaken.
I
It
believe
was
so.
straight to video release in 2016. It is a spinoff of the first VHS movie. So again, kind of like I'm always getting in that VHS spirit whenever a new one drops. VHS Beyond, I'll talk about in a few minutes. But I watched this spinoff to the original VHS. It's a spinoff to the segment Amateur Night, which is the first segment of that original VHS. It's the one with Hannah Fierman, who was a guest of ours at SuperCon this past year in September.
So fucking cool.
She's cool. She's amazing. Definitely she's going to come on the show at some point. She has a new movie coming out. We'll definitely get her on. But so I rewatched Siren. I hadn't watched this in a long time. I've seen this probably 2 or 3 times. We bought this like right away when it came out on DVD because I'm a huge VHS fan. Kayla loves that segment in VHS specifically, like the Siren character that Hannah Fierman plays, and that is like one of Kayla's favorite movie monsters ever. And so this is all about that character where it's like these group of guys that are on like this bachelor party. They're similar to the douchebag frat boy types in the original VHS, but they're not as bad. They're somewhat more fledged out and not as annoying. And they're at this strip club and they're like, this isn't fun enough. Like this kind of sucks. This is a lame party. So the groom's brother, who's like the best man, he's a burnout. He's a loser. He's the worst. He decides to like find their way to this seedy underground strip club. And when they do, they figure out it's more than just a strip club. They're basically like sex trafficking people there. They end up having, yeah, it's a terrible place. They're doing weird drugs. It's a seedy underground place you don't want to be a part of. And then they find Hannah Fierman's character, who she's the siren, she's the succubus that is there. And you get to see it full display in this movie. You get to see glimpses of it in that VHS. You get to see it on full display here. She's incredible. She's a fantastic movie monster. I think this movie is an absolute blast. It's a ton of fun. It is a low budget, like straight to video movie, but also like it does a great job with what it has and tells a great story too. So this movie is a ton of fun. Highly recommend the spinoff to the VHS series.
Hell yeah.
Then I'll jump to the new VHS movie. I watched VHS Beyond. These are all new releases from here on out. I liked VHS Beyond. It's definitely a mixed bag as we're talking about anthologies, and some hit better than others. There's one segment in this in particular called Stork, which is almost like a first person shooter segment where it's about like this group of military ops that are sent on secret missions, and they're sent on a secret mission to go to this house. They follow this guy to this house, and it's ended up with like a bunch of zombies because they end up at this house because a bunch of kids are getting kidnapped and taken there. And now there's all these zombies in the house. And I'm not going to reveal what it is, like what the big reveal is at the end. Once you watch this, Sam, I think you'll love this segment. It's incredible. I loved it.
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I have heard I don't think I've heard one person say that their favorite segment was the same one in this movie.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't think I've heard a single person agree on the best segment.
So like the theme of this one is like aliens, extraterrestrial is really the overall theme of this VHS, except for the Christian and Justin Long one where it's not that at all. Like it is the weirdest. It is by far the weirdest segment of this movie. It's more of like a body horror type segment.
I've been feeling body horror recently, so
body mutation maybe more than like body horror, like the substances. Yeah, it's a weird segment. I don't think it works in this movie, but it's a fun. It's a fun one. I think the whole movie's fun. Obviously, some segments work better than others. Speaking of body horror, well, we'll save our crossovers to do together because I have the substance on here.
Yeah,
I'll talk about that later. I watched the new Salem's Lot. It's fine. It's a movie. Like it was kind of a big nothing burger for me, unfortunately.
Have you seen the original?
Yeah, I love the original.
I was about to say the original's really good. I actually just rewatched the original a few weeks ago and really enjoyed it. I'm still looking forward to the new one. I just have my expectations pretty tempered. So
Yeah, it was just a big nothing burger. Like, it's one of those, like, as Jeremy Johns would say, not going to remember this in T-2 days, and I haven't.
Yeah, unfortunately, when it got straight to streaming, I kind of had my suspicions on that one, but you know, it is what it is. It's still a Stephen King movie. I'm gonna watch it.
Yeah. I watched Oddity that came out earlier this year. This movie's incredible. I had a ton of fun with it. There's so many great scares in it. I love the setup. The setting for this movie's incredible. I love the house that we're set up in Oddity, where it's like, I don't know, this really weird open floor plan where you have like the staircase way on one side of this main entrance area, and you have the staircase that goes up, and you have like this, like, I don't know, weird hallway that goes above it. I don't know. It's a weird layout. Have you watched Oddity yet?
I have not seen this one yet. I have heard really good things, though. I'm excited to check it out.
Yeah, setting's incredible. The movie's a ton of fun. It's a good jump scare type horror movie. There's like there's this creepy wooden man that's given as a gift to one of the characters that ends up in the house, and it like ends up stalking the people in the house. It's so creepy and weird. I love it. There's also a tent jump scare. So if you're terrified of tents, like every person should be, because tents are terrifying, there's a great tent jump scare.
Never been scared of tents, man.
I am, but also like I like the thrill of it. Like, it's fun.
I love camping. I love it.
Tents are fun, but they're also they're terrifying.
Yeah.
I watched Apartment 7A. Do you know about this movie?
Yeah, this is the Rosemary's Baby prequel, right?
Yeah. Well,
had no idea it was out, but yeah.
I had no idea this was getting made until I saw the preview when we were in the hotel in Vermilion.
Oh, really?
For Vortex. I had no idea this was a thing until I saw that preview.
That's funny.
And turns out, it's a Rosemary's Baby prequel. It is, I use that term loosely because it's a retelling of Rosemary's Baby, but in I was about to say, context.
Like, it's about the like woman across the hall, correct? Or not the like one who befriends Mia Farrow, right?
No.
Oh, no. Maybe I have no idea what this movie is then.
I haven't watched Rosemary's Baby in a while. I don't remember the apartment number that they're in. It could be Apartment 7A. It might be the apartment that Mia Farrow and her husband go into.
In the movie, I haven't watched this movie in a while either, but in the movie, there's like a woman who commits suicide.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, it's that character.
Okay. That's what I thought, because I was
so in the original, she's the neighbor.
Yeah.
Okay. They're not shown in this movie at all. So that connection did not hit me. Or maybe and maybe if they were, it's obviously not Mia Farrow, like enough for me to make the connection. Okay, so it is about that character. Yeah, I think this movie is a ton of fun. It's kind of crazy to me that in 2024 we get 3 movies that deal with like the birth of the Antichrist.
Yeah.
Like, we get Immaculate, First Omen, and Apartment 7A, and I think all are really good, and they're all very different.
That's awesome. I'm excited to watch this one. This is probably, out of the ones you've talked about, the highest up on my watch list currently, and I think it's just because I've been really feeling this type of horror recently. Like, honestly, body horror, like religious horror, that kind of,
Of the ones I've mentioned so far, it's the one I would recommend the most.
Nice.
I would not be surprised if 3 Birth of the Antichrist movies end up on my top 10 list.
Well, I know 2 are for me. Like, full disclosure, like, nothing has knocked Immaculate or The First Omen out of even my top 5 yet. So, yeah.
And then I think the rest are all crossovers with you.
I believe so. Everything else.
If you want to jump into those, we can.
Yeah. Should I do my only one that you haven't seen yet?
Oh,
and then we'll do all of our crossovers?
Yeah.
Because you have not watched Cuckoo yet, correct?
Not yet. I will probably watch it this weekend. So by the time we record next time, I'll have a watch.
I'll be very interested to hear your thoughts on this one. It's been getting a lot of like good, but not like, oh my God, this movie blew me away reviews. And I kind of understand why, because Cuckoo is a very strange movie. It stars Hunter Schafer and Dan Stevens. Hunter Schafer is moving with her family, where she kind of is. It's like her dad and her stepmother and her step sibling um, are moving to this like complex in the Alps that is run by a very hammy German Dan Stevens, but not hammy in like like he's dialed into something very specific. This is a very good Dan Stevens performance because like he's scenery chewing without being like obvious about it. Like it's such a weird performance. Hunter Schafer's incredible in this movie. I'm not even going to tell you much about the plot because like the plot's kind of inconsequential to just the vibe of this movie. Like it changes gears like 3 or 4 different times through this movie where you're like by the end you're like I'm not sure even how all of this connects, but it's wild and I kind of love the swings it's taking. There's a big emotional crux that happens towards the end of the 3rd act that like got me legitimately choked up, which was not something I was expecting from this movie. It's wild. That's all I'm going to say about it. It's crazy. Go into it knowing as little as possible. You might walk out of it not knowing much more about like what does this all mean, but it takes you for a ride and I really enjoyed it. It's probably going to be in my top 10 this year.
Okay.
And I say that because it's starting to become a very stacked roster. We are in a golden year for horror, and the next few movies that we will talk about will illustrate that because I could probably build a top 10 of just the movies that I have seen in the last like 2 months.
See, I feel like I get this every year where I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to have much for a top 10. And then September, October hits and it's like, okay, well, I can't fit them all into my top 10 now.
Yep. Oh, ones that at the beginning of the year, I'm like, this is not going to go out of my top 10. Out of my top 10. Ones I even watched like 4 months ago that I was like, this will be in my top 10, no longer in my top 10 because like I keep finding movies that I'm like, we are eating good this year.
Yeah.
That's all I'll say. As horror fans, like this is one of the best horror years that we've had in a long time. I genuinely believe that.
All right. Well, which one do you want to talk about first? Well, let's just throw one out there. We watched the brand new film from the filmmaking team of Stu Stone and Adam Rodness.
Yeah.
They made the team that made Faking a Murderer a couple of years ago. They made the Topps Trading Card documentary Jack of All Trades a couple years ago as well. And they're back with another like mockumentary type movie called Don't Fuck with Ghosts.
Yeah.
And this hits streaming on Halloween. And we have an interview with Adam and Stu coming out next week. You can hear more about it there. It's an incredible interview. Wild, crazy, all over the place.
Yeah. It's so fun.
And it's again a mockumentary where these guys play themselves, where they go to hunt ghosts and try to prove that ghosts are real. And that's all I'm going to say about it.
Yeah,
that's all you need to know going. It's so funny. It's so much fun. It's a riot.
No one else is in on the joke but them. Yeah. And so they're getting genuine reactions out of their cast, out of their crew. Like the people that are showing up are reacting in real time to the stuff that they are doing, and it's kind of incredible. Like
it was described to us as the pro wrestling of movies.
Yes, that is legit how it was described to us. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Definitely check it out when it hits streaming, and check out our interview that's dropping next week because it rules. Yeah,
it's so much fun.
It's such a fun interview. Yeah. I already want them to make another movie so we can have them.
Oh, I know. I want them to make another movie right away.
Yeah.
We both watched In a Violent Nature finally.
Yes, we fucking did.
I didn't know if I was going to like this movie going in.
I didn't either.
Like I knew the hype, and I knew like everyone's like, well, it's the best Friday the 13th. That's not a Friday the 13th. I'm not going to make any sort of that argument because it's not that.
It's not a Friday the 13th movie.
It's not a Friday the 13th movie. It's taking the tropes that you know from a Friday the 13th movie where these kids are out in the woods and there's this like urban legend serial killer out to get them all and slowly stalks them through the woods. That's the connection. That's every
Yeah.
slasher, though. The thing that sets this apart is like the way it's shot. It's all like, God, it feels like you're watching a video game almost, or like it feels like you're watching a documentary about a serial killer hunting these kids in the woods.
It's like you're watching a nature documentary
Yeah.
about, like, a natural predator. That's what it is. Like, it's a
Yep.
nature it's if National Geographic and A24 got together and were like, "Let's make a slasher movie."
Yeah.
That's what In a Violent Nature would be. And it has moments of gore in it that are just, like, fucking incredible. And like almost Terrifier levels of like practical effects work.
Yes.
Like one kill in particular, which isn't even my favorite kill of the movie, but like is just one of the most insane practical effects I've ever seen pulled off. And it's pulled off so well.
Yeah. Also, I just looked this up today. Steven Kostansky does the special effects for this, and
Yes.
he did The Void, he did Leprechaun Returns, he did Psycho Goreman. He has a new movie coming out this year, Frankie Freako. Like, I love that dude, and he did the
Yep.
special effects on this movie. Special effects on this are incredible. Yeah,
So good.
the yoga sequence on top of the like mountaintop is, yeah.
Yep.
If Terrifier 3 tops that somehow, I might throw up during Terrifier 3 because that was something.
Uh so my
The only thing
favorite
the only thing I loved this movie. I think it's wholly unique. Like, it's going to be a defining movie of our generation, I think, for slashers.
100%
The
between
ending maybe leaves a little to be desired.
okay, so I've heard a lot of people
it's a
say
big
that.
swing take. It's a big swing take, that's for sure.
Personally, I loved the ending of this. I I was riveted at the end when like it ends in a similar fashion to John Carpenter's Halloween, honestly, where like to me I was like, well fuck. Like the killer is still out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It just like it freaked me out. It freaked me out.
Yeah.
I loved it. I
Well,
loved the ending of this movie.
I won't say anything else because it will probably end up on our top 10 list.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Highly recommend In a Violent Nature. It's on Shudder right now. And then we have our last crossover for new releases. We both watched this at the Sioux Falls State Theater. We
uh-huh.
watched The Substance.
Oh my god.
What an experience that the State Theater set up for this. Like, big shout out to the entire team there. The setup for this is like they had, so like the State Theater in Sioux Falls, they always have the curtain in front of the screen, and they always project something onto it. And all they had was like the green vial from The Substance. And then
Yep.
they had like pink and green lighting throughout the entire theater, and the bass was just boom 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 boom.
And it was like actual songs from the soundtrack
It was
too, which I
playing,
thought
yeah,
was
songs
cool.
from the score. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was just bumping, and we're like, what is this? What is going on? And like, then it flashed like The Substance on the screen and like jumped right into the movie. No trailers, nothing like that, which
Yes.
was a nice touch. Jumped right into this two and a half hour long movie of,
That
I
feels like
feel,
it's 60 fucking minutes.
yeah, it flies by. It is not what I expected this movie to be. The hype got to me a little. The hype got to me
That's
on this movie of people saying like, "Oh, this is gross. People are going to throw up in the theaters." I did not feel that at all, but taking the hype out of it and just the movie at what it is and what it's going for, I loved it. It's incredible. One of my favorites of the year. Incredible performances all around. Dennis Quaid plays such a sleazeball in this movie. Demi
yeah.
Moore is incredible. Like, I hope this does get some Oscar buzz to it.
I think this could
I
be the movie that breaks that barrier. I really do.
I hope it
Like
does, but it might be too weird for
Moore
the
is
Oscar.
Moore is too good in scenes that have nothing to do with horror.
I understand
for
that,
them
but
to like deny it. I can see the fucking Oscar clip already, and it
they
has
also
nothing
don't
to do with the rest of the movie.
they also just don't do horror. Like Tony Collette should have gotten one for
I
Hereditary,
know,
and there
and
was
honestly,
absolutely nothing.
Lupita should have gotten one for Us. Like, there's at least one every year.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like, it will be devastating if Demi Moore doesn't get something out of this,
yeah.
because it is it's one of my favorite performances of since the turn of the
Yeah.
millennium. Like,
So,
it's
so,
so good.
so she plays like this. She plays a version of Demi Moore, like someone who, in her younger
Yeah.
years, was like a sex icon, who
Yep.
now hosts this like workout show like I assume it takes place in 2024, but she's hosting like this almost
This
like
takes
80s
place
theme.
on no pain of reality that we know, though. Like,
They have cell
everything
phones,
about this
so
movie is fantastical,
they
you
have cell
know?
phones, so it's at least past the 80s.
But they put an ad for her they put, like, an ad for her replacement in the newspaper. Like, it's
Yeah,
almost like
it
like
does
an
an It
It
Follows
Follows
thing. Yeah, yeah,
situation where it's
yeah,
just like, it doesn't matter. It's just,
yeah.
this is the world. Live in it. And I
Living,
love
yeah,
movies like that. Yeah.
yeah. But she's playing. I mean, she's playing like this fitness TV host, and
Yep.
she's starting to feel her age. She's gonna get fired from her job. She overhears her sleazy TV producer Dennis Quaid,
And he
who's
fires
just
her while eating disgusting shrimp.
just scarfing down shrimp and licking his fingers like a disgusting ape.
The most horrific scene in this movie is literally him eating shrimp, and it's
Him
because of
eating
the way
shrimp.
it's shot and edited, because he's just like,
It's
it's
like
shot
falling
like
out
a
of his
freaking
mouth.
horror season.
Yeah,
Like, it's shot like a horror sequence. It's gross.
yeah.
Ah,
And
yeah.
she ends up getting like this like secret letter in the mail about this substance is all it's called, after she visits the doctor after she's been in a car accident,
Yep.
and she decides, well, she's going to give this a shot, where the substance basically like splits you into two almost. Well, you're still of one mind, but you're split into two. There's the regular version of yourself, and then the best version of yourself. And her best version, she gets turned into a younger model, Margaret Qualley, who's
Yep.
also great in this movie,
She's so good.
and
The
she's the
3 leads
replacement
should
for
just
Demi
be,
Moore's. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and so like you get the monkey's paw story of like, all right, well, I made this wish. Can I follow the rules of making this wish type of thing?
Mhm.
It's very Twilight Zone, definitely has those
Yep.
influences on it. It's a like if David Cronenberg did like a Twilight Zone segment, it's incredible.
Yeah.
This movie rules. Go watch it.
It's fucking perfect. I found the script online and started reading the screenplay, and like, what I was reading on the page, I'm like, this is what's in the movie. Like, this is incredible. Like, Corley Farja, I think is how you say her last name. Corley Farja. Just like, the writing to direction on this thing is just immaculate. It's oh my god. This movie is so horrifying, and yet somehow I had the biggest smile on my face throughout the
Oh,
whole thing.
it's such a dark comedy.
It's hilarious while also being like one of the most heartbreaking fucking things you've ever watched. It's going to be a comfort movie for me. Like, this is legitimately like, about 2 days passed after we saw it at the screening, and I was just like making breakfast with Maria in the kitchen on Sunday morning, and I was just like, when the substance comes out on Blu-ray, it's just going to be one of those that I put on all the time. I hope you know that. And she goes, nothing about what you've told me with that movie surprises me about that. I'm like, yeah, it's going right up there with like Reanimator and The Fly, as just like movies that if I've had a shit day and I need a smile on my face, that's what I'm gonna put on.
We'll watch The Substance.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All
both
2.5 hours of it.
highly recommend from both of us. Yeah, it'll definitely be on our top 10 list.
Yep.
All right. And then we also did a couple late nights. We don't need to
We
go
did.
full board into these. We can briefly talk about them. We
We've
showed
talked about both of them on the cast.
we have.
Yeah.
We showed Friday the 13th, part 5, A New Beginning. on Friday the 13th last September. This past September, we had Ron Sloan, aka Junior Hubbard. He did a special little intro for us. So shout out Ron Sloan. Thank you so much for taking time to film that and send that over to us to have a nice little surprise for us. Sold out crowd for Friday the 13th Part 5. Not an empty seat in the house. Incredible. Nope. So much fun.
And a great crowd that really seemed to enjoy the movie.
And then this past Friday, we showed Basket Case right after The Substance as a little unofficial double feature of gross out movies. The Substance and then Basket Case. Yeah, this movie's a blast. Again, shout out to the
really well.
Played really well. Shout out to the State Theater for, again, the amazing presentation before the movie of having just sleazy, gross 80s New York up on the screen while we hosted the movie. It was so much fun. Absolute blast. We can't wait to be back in a couple weeks.
Yep. For a mystery movie.
Mystery movie?
That maybe Casey and I don't even know what it is. Who knows? We can't say.
We can't say anything besides go buy your tickets.
Yep. You'll find out when the curtains are drawn what movie we're all watching.
Yes.
It's great. All right.
Well, let's end the show.
Okay.
Let's end the show. Sam, everybody, what do we got for plugs?
You know the drill. You subscribe to us on Apple, Spotify. You can watch us on YouTube. Sometimes we do make visual references that might get lost if you're watching it or just listening to it on Spotify. So check out the YouTubes.
Yeah.
You can check out our merch on tpublic.com. Just search Screams from the Basement. We just dropped a new Halloween exclusive design, only going to be available through the 31st, and we are currently
it'll still be on sale. 35%. It'll still be on sale. Off.
Yep, 35% off through this weekend, correct? Through the 13th?
Through October 13th. So if you're listening to this Sunday. On Friday, pick up that exclusive t-shirt. No hyperbole. Like, this is going away October 31st. We're not going to use that design ever again for anything. So if you want that design, you think it's cool, pick it up.
Pick it up.
Chance. Which reminds me, I need to buy ours.
I know, I do too.
Yeah.
If I forget, I'm just like, oh, well, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you can always follow us on our socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. Just check us out there. We're doing fun stuff all the time.
Shout out to anyone who found us on TikTok this past week, because I put a Terrifier 3 one.
Casey went viral.
We somehow did. I'm going to pull up what these numbers are, because this is insane. Like, I don't know how this happened. The Terrifier crowd on TikTok is nuts. We are currently at 27,000 views.
Yeah, that's like 3,000 more than the last time I checked, which was like yesterday.
Yeah. So shout out to anyone who found the podcast from that TikTok. We thank you. We thank you.
Hopefully you like us.
Hopefully you like us. We'll talk Terrifier next episode. We promise it'll be there.
Yeah, we will. I'm seriously thinking about I'm out of town this weekend, but it's playing in the town that I'm going to, and so I'm really hoping to slip away from my engagement.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, I think that was all the plugs, right?
That's all the plugs. That's it.
Yeah, that is it. Be on the lookout next week for our interview with the Don't Fuck With Ghost teams. And 2 weeks from now, we'll be back on the podcast, just Sam and I. What is that double feature we're going to be talking about if people want to do a little homework beforehand?
Yeah, if you want to do some homework before the next episode, we picked 2 more spooky season classics. Another one from the 80s, Pumpkinhead, one of my favorites of all time. Love that movie. The Stan Winston effects are incredible. If you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. And we are doubling that with, it's just kind of the modern Pumpkinhead, Dark Harvest, an adaptation of like my favorite Halloween book ever. That just came out last year, correct?
Last year, yeah.
Yeah, brand spanking new. So check out Dark Harvest and Pumpkinhead to get ready for the next episode of Screams from the Basement.
Yes.
Until then, thanks for tuning in, and sweet screams. Ooh.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.